The Arab world's unity is unraveling, revealing cracks that have long been hidden beneath the surface. Once, the region's leaders stood together, projecting an image of solidarity to the world. But today, shifting interests and new ambitions are pulling them apart. At the heart of this transformation is the unrecognized state of Somaliland, a land striving for legitimacy, caught between powerful neighbors and global ambitions. For decades, the Arab League, with Cairo at its helm, insisted that Somalia's territorial integrity was non-negotiable. This principle was seen as a cornerstone of regional stability, a line that could not be crossed. But now, that once unbreakable consensus has been shattered. Disagreements simmer behind closed doors, and the old sense of unity is fading fast. The Gulf monarchies, led by the UAE, are charting their own course, motivated by economic interests, strategic calculations, and a desire to expand their influence. They openly challenge Egypt's more conservative, traditionalist approach. Somaliland's determined push for sovereignty has exposed deep rifts within the Arab world and beyond, forcing countries to reconsider old alliances and confront new realities. Egypt, wary of setting a precedent that could threaten its own interests, clings tightly to the idea of Somali unity, refusing to recognize Somaliland's independence. Meanwhile, the UAE sees opportunity, investing in Somaliland's ports and infrastructure and forging new partnerships that could reshape the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia's landmark maritime deal with Somaliland and Israel's move toward formal recognition have added fuel to the fire, drawing in new players and raising the stakes for everyone involved. These developments have forced every major player to pick sides, breaking apart old alliances and forging unexpected new ones. The region's political landscape is being redrawn in real time. The UAE now stands firmly behind Somaliland and Israel, signaling a dramatic shift in regional priorities and allegiances. In response, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar have closed ranks, rallying behind Somalia's sovereignty and the old order they hope to preserve. The fate of Somaliland, and the future of Arab unity, now hang in the balance as leaders weigh their options, and the world watches closely. As the old Middle Eastern order crumbles, new alliances are taking shape, promising a future that is as uncertain as it is transformative. To grasp today's crisis, we must understand Somaliland's unique journey. Once the British Somaliland Protectorate, it gained independence in 1960, only to merge days later with Italian Somaliland to form Somalia, a union that quickly soured. Decades of marginalization and brutal repression followed, culminating in civil war and the destruction of Hargeisa. In 1991, as Somalia collapsed, Somaliland declared independence and began building a stable, democratic state from the ground up. For over 30 years, it has maintained peace, held free elections, and established its own institutions, yet remains unrecognized internationally. The world, fearing a precedent for secession, has kept Somaliland in diplomatic limbo. Now, its long wait for recognition has thrust it into the heart of a global power struggle. The Arab League's stance on Somalia was once ironclad. Somalia's territorial integrity was non-negotiable. Egypt, the architect of this policy, saw a unified Somalia as vital to its security and influence over the Red Sea. Any hint of Somaliland's independence was swiftly rejected, with the League backing Mogadishu as the sole legitimate authority. This position was rooted in fears of encouraging separatism across the Arab world and Africa. For decades, Somaliland's appeals for recognition met only silence and reaffirmations of Somali unity. Even as some states traded quietly with Hargeisa, official policy remained dictated by Cairo. This united front held until the Gulf monarchies began to see Somaliland differently. In the Gulf, priorities shifted from ideology to strategy. The UAE, and to a lesser extent Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, saw Somaliland as a gateway to economic and security interests in the Horn of Africa. The transformation of Berbera's port by DP World became the centerpiece of this new engagement, securing trade routes and projecting Gulf power. Somaliland's stability made it an ideal partner, especially as Turkey and Qatar deepened ties with Mogadishu. By investing in Somaliland, the UAE countered rivals and established a strategic foothold, bypassing the Arab League's consensus. For the Gulf, tangible benefits outweighed old political doctrines. This pragmatic pivot marked the first major crack in Arab unity. Egypt watched the Gulf's growing involvement in Somaliland with alarm. The UAE's actions threatened Cairo's leadership and security interests, especially as Ethiopia, Egypt's Nile rival, entered the fray. Ethiopia's deal with Somaliland for Red Sea access was a red line for Egypt, raising fears of encirclement and loss of influence. Cairo saw the Gulf's engagement as enabling Ethiopia and destabilizing the region. In response, Egypt doubled down on its support for Somali unity, condemning the Ethiopia-Somaliland deal and the Gulf's pragmatism. The confrontation was now set. Egypt would not accept a new order that sidelined its leadership. The stakes had never been higher for regional power and security. The UAE openly defied the Arab League, forging its own path in Somaliland. While Egypt issued statements, the UAE built infrastructure and established a military base in Berbera, treating Somaliland as a de facto state. High-level meetings in Abu Dhabi signaled practical recognition, bypassing Mogadishu entirely. This bold approach reflected a shift in Gulf strategy. National interests now trumped pan-Arab solidarity. The UAE and Saudi Arabia saw themselves as regional powers, no longer deferring to Cairo. Somaliland became a test case for this assertive new posture, hollowing out the Arab League's authority. The League's official statements rang hollow as its members pursued conflicting agendas. The era of collective Arab policymaking was over, replaced by a multipolar scramble for influence. The crisis exploded in late 2025 when Israel became the first UN member to recognize Somaliland, sending shockwaves through diplomatic circles across the globe. For decades, Somaliland's quest for international legitimacy had been ignored, but Israel's bold move changed everything overnight. The announcement of an Israeli embassy opening in Hargeisa was more than symbolic. It was a declaration that the old order was crumbling, and new alliances were taking shape in the Horn of Africa. The move shattered the status quo, catching regional powers off guard and forcing governments to reconsider their positions almost overnight. Global condemnation was swift, but the Arab world itself fractured, with leaders split between outrage and cautious pragmatism. Heated debates erupted at the United Nations, and old rivalries resurfaced. The UAE, eager to assert its influence and secure its interests in the Red Sea, quickly followed Israel's lead, becoming the first Arab nation to accept only Somaliland passports for entry. Within days, the UAE made its recognition official, signing new agreements and opening doors for trade and security cooperation. Outraged by what it saw as a betrayal, Saudi Arabia broke with the UAE, deepening the rift within the Gulf Cooperation Council. In retaliation, Saudi Arabia escalated its campaign in Yemen, launching airstrikes against UAE-backed proxies, and intensifying the conflict. Saudi Arabia also signed a sweeping military pact with Somalia, cementing a new axis of resistance. The region rapidly polarized, with alliances shifting in real time. Israel, the UAE, and Ethiopia now openly back Somaliland, forming a new bloc with shared strategic interests in the Horn of Africa. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, Qatar, and Pakistan rallied behind Somalia, providing diplomatic, financial, and military support. Somalia, newly empowered by these alliances, signed a series of defense deals with its backers. With new funding, Somalia purchased advanced fighter jets and began modernizing its military, signaling its readiness for confrontation. Egypt hosted the Somali president for a high-profile military review, showcasing their deepening partnership and sending a clear message to rivals. The Somaliland question had become the central fault line of a new Middle Eastern Cold War. Old alliances collapsed, new blocs formed, and uncertainty gripped capitals from Cairo to Riyadh to Addis Ababa. The Horn of Africa was transformed into a battleground for rival powers, with military convoys and bases springing up almost overnight. The stakes and the risks had never been higher, as the world watched a new era of confrontation and uncertainty unfold in real time. The realignment has left the region fractured and volatile. Once firm alliances have splintered, and old rivalries have resurfaced with new intensity. The shifting landscape has created a sense of uncertainty as countries scramble to secure their interests and redefine their roles in a rapidly changing environment. For Somaliland, Israel's recognition brought pride but also peril, tying its fate to the region's most divisive conflicts. The move sparked celebrations among some, who saw it as a step toward international legitimacy. Yet, It also triggered backlash from powerful neighbors and ignited protests, exposing Somaliland to new threats and diplomatic isolation. Instead of more recognition, Somaliland faces isolation and new enemies. Hopes for broader acceptance have faded, replaced by anxiety over security and economic uncertainty. The government now finds itself navigating a diplomatic minefield, with few allies willing to offer support. Egypt, though challenged, has rallied a powerful coalition, reclaiming its role as a regional leader. By forging new partnerships and leveraging its diplomatic influence, Cairo has managed to unite several Arab states behind a common cause, strengthening its position on the world stage. The Gulf split is now complete. The UAE stands isolated, while Saudi Arabia aligns with Egypt and Turkey. This division has reshaped the balance of power in the Gulf, leaving the UAE to chart a more independent and uncertain path, while its former allies consolidate their influence. The Horn of Africa is now a militarized arena for proxy conflict, with advanced weapons and hardened alliances, raising the risk of direct confrontation. Foreign powers are increasingly involved, supplying arms and support to their chosen partners, making the region a flashpoint for wider geopolitical struggles. Somalia, emboldened by new backers, may act against Somaliland, while Ethiopia's ambitions add further instability. The threat of renewed conflict looms large, as both countries maneuver for advantage, and outside actors fuel the tensions. The region's future hangs on a precarious balance of power between hostile camps. As alliances shift and rivalries deepen, the stakes have never been higher, and the path forward remains uncertain for all involved. Somaliland's saga is now the ultimate test for the Arab world's future. The crisis has exposed the fragility of Arab unity and the rise of competing centers of power. The UAE champions a transactional, post-ideological approach, even aligning with Israel, while Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey defend traditional pillars like state sovereignty. The struggle is now between disruptive pragmatism and conservative order building. Somaliland's quest for recognition has forced a reckoning. Alliances are fluid and national ambition trumps old solidarity. The outcome will define not just Somaliland's fate, but the character of the new Middle East. How Arab powers navigate this test will shape the region for decades to come.